Welcome to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where leaders come to learn how to create a workplace where people would be crazy to leave. Join your hosts, Holley and Tony McConnell, as they serve up stories, strategies, and real talk that you can actually use today. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast, the place where leaders come to learn about creating a workplace that people would be crazy to leave. My name is Holley Potts, and I got my co-host here, Tony McConnell.
I'm Tony McConnell. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we've been busy.
I guess they thought we were crazy and left.
We were crazy and left. No, we're still here.
No, we're still here.
Let's talk about why. Let's talk about what we've been up to.
Oh man, I guess our last episode, we were wrapping up our 3-part series and talking about resilient leadership and resilient teams and organizations. And we just, and last month had our big event, our first workshop of resiliency. It was a resounding hit, I think. And we've been recovering from it and doing the follow-up appointments from it. And it was just really good. It's been a really good month. And last week we had our first leading with emotional intelligence workshop. We were going to put it out to the public, and Dow Smith Company ended up buying out all our slots for it, and it was very good. We had 8 people there, and and you were one of the participants, and it was a really good event. And today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, and but I want to give a shout out to Greg Pease and Colby Jubenville for helping us out on our workshop. It was great. I heard nothing but a good, positive, uplifting comments about it. And it proved a lot of points that we've been trying to make. And I think we'll be announcing another one sometime soon, maybe towards the end of the year, having another event, November, December timeframe.
Yes. There's a lot of good energy in the room. And I think people felt like topic was super relevant to their personal lives, to their organizations.
Yeah, no doubt.
A lot of energy coming out of there. So like you said, Tony, we launched right into another event in a sense, which was the table group for emotional intelligence. And again, I got to be a participant and take the survey and find out if I was emotionally smart or not. And I, like all of us, I had some growing edges, and then I had some strong points too. So kind of tell for everybody, what is emotional intelligence? It's kind of a buzzword that's been thrown around for a lot of years.
Yeah, the emotional intelligence has been studied since probably the 60s through, the 90s and to today. But in the mid-90s, a book come out, Emotional Intelligence, and off the top of my head, I can't remember who wrote it, but it became a buzzword and has become a bigger buzzword. And it's really, there's a bunch of definitions for it. It's hard to really, it's a lot like resiliency. It's hard to say exactly what it is. It's one of those things, I'll know it when I see it. But It's kind of, to me, it's the vessel that carries your intellectual intelligence. EQ is how you present your IQ. And the CEO for Microsoft had said that IQ alone without EQ is just a waste of a good IQ. So I know it kind of goes into what Colin Powell said of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's where EQ comes in.
Well, in the workshop, we had a smaller group that broke off, and we were supposed to come up with a definition.
A definition
and
of it, yeah.
We came up with basically 2 parts to it. And one is knowing yourself and understanding why you react the way you do, and managing why you react the way you do. And
also how you react and how your emotions impact those around you.
So once you start understanding yourself, then the second part of it was, okay, well, if I'm dealing with all this and everybody I interact is doing their own thing, and you can kind of see into other people, and it can help you manage, people if you're their boss or whatever, or, any work relationships.
Yeah, and the way we, broke it down and presented it at the workshop was the 2 components of it is your internal emotional self, emotional intelligence, then also your external, how you perceive what's around you.
Yeah. Another way you can maybe tell us your illustration about emotional intelligence as a platform
Yeah.
for all the things that we talk about in a
Yeah,
workplace.
like with our Irresistible Workplace Initiative, our components to making, our 6 components to making a irresistible workplace, they're kind of like puzzle pieces, and they all got to fit together. And so, I was thinking about emotional intelligence because somebody said, well, is emotional intelligence going to become a 7th component? And I'm like, no, not really, because it is a component to all of it. And to be successful, you've got to have a level of emotional intelligence. So I got to thinking, okay, so I'm looking at my wife's little puzzle table that she has where she does her puzzle and guzzle. Puzzle and Guzzle workshop coming to you, brought to you by Shauna McConnell. But anyway, that table, it being a good flat level spot, and she can spin it around and put the puzzle pieces on it. I'm like, emotional intelligence is kind of like that good stable flat spot to put all these, to put puzzle together. I'm like, because without it, without emotional intelligence, putting those puzzle pieces together would be like trying to put a puzzle together on a pillow. just unstable and fall off. So without the emotional intelligence, it becomes very complicated.
Yeah, well, let's talk about leadership a little bit, because we have said time and time again, the leader sets the temperature of the room, and kind of every problem is a leadership problem, we've said. So why do leaders need to go deeper into this concept of emotional intelligence?
I think, one of the key things is you got to know yourself. You got to know yourself, and knowing yourself helps you realize the impact that you have on those around you on a daily basis. And, and we'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about psychological safety, but if someone isn't very emotional intelligent and doesn't know how their emotions impact people, or they're very emotional intelligent wishy-washy, or one day you're this guy and very inconsistent, then everybody approaches you. They never approach you with the good emotional, the good Holley emotional intelligence. They always approach you with, well, is it going to be the bad emotional intelligence? Or it's going to be, let me go in there with that. So you never get the good problems. You always get that lower level of activity. And I think.
Well, why don't we jump right into psychological safety from that? Because what I hear you saying is, what version of this person am I going to get today? Yeah. And most people, because of self-protection, are going to default to, it might be the bad version. It might be the person that could hurt me, could, whatever. And so psychological safety, again, another sort of buzzword phrase we've thrown around. Make that real for us.
That to me is the key to any growing culture, or a successful culture, or a irresistible culture, is you've got to have a high level of psychological safety, and you have to have, even more importantly, a consistent level of psychological safety. In fact, I think the consistency is probably just a little more important than how high the level is, just how consistent it is. If it's going to be here, let's leave it here. Let's don't have it up and down where you're having, because anytime you're having to guess, you're eroding trust. And psychological safety really is just a culmination of everybody in the workplace's emotional intelligence. If you can't have 1 or 2 people who are high emotional intelligence and everybody else low, and have a safe place. So you have to try to bring everybody's up. And the good thing about it is you can. Psychological safety and emotional intelligence can be impacted and changed, unlike DISC assessments and so forth.
Right. Nature, nurture. We've been talking a whole lot about that.
And one thing about psychological safety that probably one of my favorite things that we got out of the training was psychological safety, and the environment that it creates is like having the dog that only, you ask the owner, he goes, hey, does this dog bite? And they're like, 85% of the time it doesn't. So you're going to always approach that dog like it bites.
Like it bites.
So and psychological safety is the same way. If you have an environment where psychological safety is, 85% of the time, it's good. But that 15% of the time you might get your head bit off, then
it's not safe.
No, it's not safe. It's either all or nothing with psychological safety, because it's like trust. Trust is, you're all in, you put in one at a time, but when trust gets eroded, you take out a handful of the trust at a time.
That was a big takeaway for me from the workshop was if you're not safe 100% of the time, you're not safe
because everybody's going to approach everything with that 15% in mind, not the 85% in mind.
Yeah.
Because we all try to preserve, are we safe? Are we welcome? And does it feel good? That's the three things we think about in our primitive brain.
Yeah.
And if we're always trying to maintain our safety.
Let's make it real for a minute. So those of us around the table had what we called a heat sheet with all these qualities. How many? I don't know.
There's 5 main principles and then 25 total.
Or so. So, for example, if somebody is low emotional intelligence, we can break it down into certain components, and that's how we can improve.
Yep.
So what are name some of the ones that really stood out to you, maybe from our workshop, or some of the ones that resonate with you the most, and maybe I can tell some of the ones.
Loyalty, self-starter, those are all some of the ones over on the internal. And self-awareness, self-regard's a big thing, and self-regard pretty much encompasses the external and the internal.
Right.
So self-regard is a big, thing that's really impact. And people who have low self-regard are almost always always going to have very low emotional intelligence, internal and external.
And what if their self-regard is a little bit too high?
Then it's going to be, they're still going to have low emotional intelligence, but to a different degree.
Yes.
One of the ones that we had a big discussion about, and one of my lower ones, I will freely admit, and it's much higher now probably than it was, 10, 15 years ago, is the
impulse control.
Impulse control. Yeah. Impulse control. What are you talking? Impulse control. So that's one that we had a lot of discussion about.
We did. And what we realized is several of us scored lower in it than we wanted to, myself included. I was really surprised because I feel like I'm patient to a fault and I'm slow to act.
But you're also probably quick to get down on yourself, that's
myself.
all the
Quick
to spin out of control when things don't happen like they should, like you have planned. Yeah.
So one of the struggles we had in that group was to say, how am I supposed to work on something if I don't even see it in myself? And that's where we even dug into like the concept of 360 review. Like we all have blind spots.
Everybody has a blind spot,
but we all have strengths. And one thing I took away from the workshop, because we all want to look at where we scored lower and go, oh no, but what you all challenged us to say, choose one of these that's your highest score and make it even better. That's going to
erase some stuff, around it, like the way the heat map's drawn out. If you look at things that are, blue being the best and yellow or red being the worst, and colors for it. If you look at your, the blue spots, a lot of times around the blue spots, they were, it was a little better colored than than away from it.
Yeah. So, some of the ones I think on the people side, there was like ego management.
Yeah, ego management.
Delayed gratification, I think, was a category on there. So I can see where after looking at these 25 or so components, it's like, I could pick 3 and just get better at those for now. And once I feel like I've kind of gotten the hang of that, then maybe I can move on to another one. It's an evolving journey, isn't it?
Yeah, and one of the ones I really like that we'll touch on more, because we're not finished with that particular workshop. Yes. We did 4 hours, and we're going to do 4 more hours to finish it up, to wrap it up, where we actually go in and try to set up a sustainable program to improve everyone around the table, which will bring up the entire group's emotional time. What that table in everybody's heat map, and when we had the consolidated heat map that averaged everybody's together, what that showed to me, once I looked at it, is we have the perfect people sitting around that table, though, because it was a very good, pretty good middle of the road group, higher than probably the rest of the company if we did the whole organization together would have been. So we have the right people around there, and the psychological safety aspect of it was high for the entire group. There were some people that had dips off, but as a total of the group of 8, it was really good and very powerful. The one that I really know we'll talk about some more is how the one where that when you walk into a room, and some people walk into a room and they read the room and they know, they pick up on the cues, external cues, and then some people do not.
Right.
Some people go in like a bull in a china cabinet and just insert foot and mouth.
Yeah. And definitely starts with understanding your own MO.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what are your triggers? What are the things, and this journey we do is not for the faint of heart.
It's not for the faint of heart, especially the EQ one is not for the faint of heart. And the thing about when you do, any kind of EQ assessment is it's not, how did I score this, or how did I get this score? Why do I have this low score? It's really what you should do when you look at it is, what can I learn about this? Yes. Because, like we're saying, like DISC assessments and all those profiles, Myers-Briggs, most researchers say that by the time you're in your teens, early 20s, you have already developed that. Yeah. And it's kind of your nature. It's it's the things where people go, well, I can't change who I am. Well, you can't with that, not so much. But with the emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, what it used to be, the EQ, is it's learned. It is, it's how my wife and I can be the same on the Enneagram, yet present completely different. It's because I come from a different background than she does.
Yes. Life experiences. Into it. Yeah.
And sure. you can do things to improve them. Are you going to improve all of them? Probably not. But as you get older and wiser, or as you become diligent in trying to change, you got to want. It's like everything else. It's like growth or anything else. You've got to want to do it.
Yes. And I think around that table we had a fairly young group of leaders, and I think that them asking these questions now, because a lot of leaders learn emotional intelligence the hard way. Yeah. They learn because,
or they don't learn,
or they don't. But maybe it's held them back, and I think all the studies out there would say the number one sort of Achilles heel for your success in life, whether the workplace, relationships, everything else, is this.
Yeah, it's the vessel. It's the vessel that brings your IQ out. It's, IQ is a factor that can get you places, but without EQ, and we probably all know highly intelligent people who have very bad emotional intelligence, and they're the people that jump around from job to job, jump around from relationship to relationship, friendship to friendship, and just aren't as successful as some middle of the road people.
Yeah.
I'm a middle of the road person. I don't think I'm very intelligent, but
I beg to differ.
But here we are.
It's sad when you see somebody who is smart like that, and you're like, oh, they're just not getting it,
They don't understand what they say to people.
Yeah.
I've had really intelligent people that I've worked for, and I use this one person a lot of times as an example, and his emotional intelligence had to be very low. He would slay people wide open, and one of his saying was, don't listen to how I say something, listen to what I say. And I'm like, it just don't happen that way. It doesn't work that way.
Man, yeah. And that goes to show there's a person unwilling to manage themselves.
Yeah.
No, you've got to figure it out. And I can say it however I want. And sometimes I know in coaching, I've told people, hey, it's your job to get the best out of another person, especially if you're in leadership. It's your job to get the best out of another person, and that requires work on your part to be able to do it. So,
and changing, your EQ, your emotional intelligence is not going to be easy. I mean, there are some things that kind of are no-brainers that you can do, but it's not going to be an easy lift for all of us, and it's something that you have to think about constantly. It's a lot like trying to build an irresistible workplace culture. Is you just about the time you quit being cognizant of what's going on, or start being very complacent, it's going to go down the tubes. You're going, and I think individually we revert back, like we're talking about with resiliency. You revert back to the old self.
So let's talk a little bit about EQ as that platform, like you said, for our components. Why does EQ matter? Because in our resiliency workshop, one of the biggest things is, what if you lose, what if you the turnover rate and losing people. Like, how does EQ play into that on both sides of the equation?
I think it goes to something that you've said before of what, and I don't remember if you said it on the podcast, you probably have, of what's it like to be on the other side of the table from me? Mm-hmm. And that's probably what we should call this podcast. What's it like to be on the other side of the table from me? Because how people perceive you a lot of times ends up being more important and more relevant to them personally than what you're actually saying.
And what you even know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you cannot communicate what you know to someone if they're not going to be receptive.
That's right.
And high emotional intelligence people there's an openness. What have we talked about? Open and honest.
Yeah. Open and honest, where it's on two identical ends of the spectrum. Open and honest are not the same thing, but to be very successful, especially doing entrepreneur operating system and IDS in the way they want you to IDS. Gino Wickman, spent an hour and a half at his conference for EOS this year talking about the concept of open and honest. And he's like, it's easy for me to be honest with you.
Yes.
But is it easy for me to be open to your honesty? If it's not, then it's never going to work.
Yeah. What was it? We had a conversation with somebody this morning that said, they used to ask people, how do you want your feedback?
How do you want your feedback from me?
Yeah.
But if EQ on either way, you or I, either one, isn't where it needs to be, then feedback is never going to be what feedback could be. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you try to make a culture of feedback and a feedback loop. It's for somehow or another, it gets twisted when when the emotional intelligence.
Like a wall in the way of it.
And I tell you, if you look at organizations and even looking within our organization, you could almost put an EQ issue with every major issue that's come along has had an EQ component.
Yes, and it wastes a lot of energy.
Yes, it does.
I don't know if efficiency is the right word or effectiveness, but when people are having to deal with workplace drama or uncertainty around how another person's going to react. I mean, these are the things that are time killers. We all know. Yeah. I'm reading a book right now called No Ego, and it's written from an HR perspective of like.
I know who didn't write that. Me.
Ego management was one of the emotional intelligence factors.
Yeah, for me, it was one of the ones I was low in. And Philip, who was my co-teacher, but I told him, I was like, at our age and what we've done, we should have some ego issue.
But she says, talking about open door policy, and it's like, man, how many hours? And she actually did a study. This is bad when we reference a book and I can't tell you the author's name. I should have looked it up, but she talks about a research project they did where they configured how many hours are lost in workplace drama over a year. And it was so expensive. Yeah. So expensive. And it kind of goes back to, we have said, if you build an irresistible culture, it will save you money. And people don't often believe that. Maybe they go, oh, that's the fluffy stuff or whatever. Yeah. But it really will save you money and make you more effective in your, your work.
Yes, it will.
So leadership, trust is a big part of it.
Yeah, and EQ plays a huge role in building trust. Mm-hmm. And the biggest reason is because as a leader, if your emotional intelligence is above par, then you realize that not everyone is going to pick up what you're laying down. So you go out of your way to reiterate things, to say things. You become the chief reminding officer. You make sure you tell people and you try to bring people into your fold and build the trust and make them part of your. Make sure your core values, their core values, align with the organization's and yours, and you also help get the buy-in for what the role of and the mission of the organization is.
So feedback, you kind of already said.
And it's probably the one to me where as a component of building an irresistible workplace, that emotional intelligence plays a huge impact, probably as big as any, because feedback is one of those things, whether it's positive or negative. And I hate to even say negative because there's really no negative feedback. Right. There's just feedback. But it's a lot easier for someone who is emotional intelligence challenged to to perceive feedback, almost any feedback that's negative or a personal. What's really bad is when it becomes a personal assault. And also, if you're someone giving feedback, if your emotional intelligence level is low, it is a lot easier for people, even people who have a higher EQ, to perceive what you're saying as a personal attack and not be an authentic to make me better attack it. Everything, seems personal.
Yeah. One thing that came up in the room around that was somebody that shuts it down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a meeting and a leader or other person just cuts you off, shuts it down, that kills psychological safety instantly. It's like, I'm never going to put myself out there again, because when I do, I get
my head lopped off.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So recognition, how does EQ play into that?
I think the authenticity piece.
Okay.
If the person doing the recognizing doesn't come across as authentic, which is, is a byproduct of high emotional intelligence, the recognition is never going to get the value that it should.
For sure. All right. What about growth?
Growth is that one of those like emotional intelligence where I can't do it for you. I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it.
And then if you're the person in leadership with that person, if you have EQ, though, you can coach.
You can coach
now,
and mentor.
They're coachable,
that's a different story also.
That's part of their own journey, but you can look at it as, I can coach this person knowing all these factors about emotional intelligence. All right, what about compensation?
Compensation, to me, where I see emotional intelligence after several conversations is when we talk about ethical compensation. I think sometimes an high emotionally intelligent leader will know that they have to make sure things appear fair and are easily explainable if there's differences. Why, this person provides this much value to the organization, and also on the receiving end, if the person has low emotional intelligence, it doesn't matter if they only see the number. It's hard to explain to them, well, this person has been here. They have brought along this $1 million worth of projects and contribute this much. And we want you to get there. You just got to work on, growing yourself and being better at what you do, project managing or whatever.
That one made me think of self-regard.
Yes, self-regard's big. And sometimes people, if somebody's self-regard's really low, they may not ask for the compensation that they should be getting.
Right. All right, balance. So how does EQ help leaders recognize when they need balance?
Well, I think personally, if you have high EQ, you will realize that, okay, I'm not at my best, because lack of balance or an integration that's not balanced a little bit will make you realize that your emotional intelligence is slipping, because you'll slip. Your emotional intelligence, unless you're like super high, like, Superman, everybody's got their kryptonite, and we'll all slip back into that primitive way of thinking about our emotional intelligence. Yes.
We're given our frontal lobe for a reason, to process these things.
Yeah, but it'll also, if you're high intelligent as a leader or high emotional intelligence as a leader, you will be able to recognize people starting to feel the pain. Well, like Dow said one time, it's something I brought up at our workshop. We had a season a few years ago where there was just a lot going on at Dow Smith as the growth was just exponential, exceeding everyone's expectations and exceeding the processes that were in place. Because growth, especially rapid growth, is when things that are frazzled will break. And Dow had the emotional intelligence to look back and go, we are in a season of unnecessary suffering. Yes. And once it was named and the organization, Dow leading the organization, became aware of what was going on, he became very adamant that we needed to fix things. And he started proactively putting things in place to fix it. But I think a less emotional intelligent leader would have just took that as part of normal growing pains.
Right. We're supposed to suffer. It's supposed to hurt, right? To get where we're going. Yeah. Well, let's kind of leave with two thoughts. One is, what would you say to a leader to start seeing some of this? Like, what are some questions we can ask ourselves when we're interacting with somebody or in a meeting, where we can start checking ourselves?
Well, my favorite one is the question of, what's it like to be across the table from me?
Yeah.
If you start your morning, look in the mirror going, okay, what's it like to be, because I've asked myself that a lot of times, like, what's it like to be across the table from me? What's it like to be, sitting in the car with me if you're taking your kids to school and their first day of school and they're not wanting to get ready to go and they forget their backpack or they forget their soccer cleats or they forget their soccer shin guards, which if you're out there, Emma, you know what we're talking about. I bet we had 10 pair of soccer shin guards, but
when you said that, Tony, too, it reminded me. Somebody said in our workshop, "Well, I answered this as like, me at home is one way and me at work is another way."
I don't believe that. I do not believe that. I think there is some lying to themselves on there. I think their willingness to want to be honest about it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's different.
Like this
I think we're way more.
Words.
No, and I think you're way more consistent than you anticipate. Mm-hmm. And you may have your truer self out at home than work.
Maybe true.
And it may be a little safer. Maybe your psychological safety is better at home. I hope it is. I hope no matter how good psychological safety is at work, your home life psychological safety is even better. Mm-hmm. So maybe your misgivings, your miscommunications and stuff, maybe they are easier to see at home than they are at work. But I don't think there's any separate. I think it's integrated. And I think, anybody that doesn't think they bring home problems to work and work problems to home is just lying to themselves.
Yeah. Well, I thought about three things kind of came to my mind real quick about, I can check my tone, I can check my body language, and I can check whether or not I'm listening to the other person. Mm-hmm. I think just doing those three questions right there, because if your tone is right, your body language is right, and you're listening, it's nice to be on the other side of the table from you, with those. So, and then just to wrap it up, like this as a workshop, I think it's something we're probably going to be willing and able to offer to organizations out there. Sort of a subcategory of Irresistible Workplace. So.
Yeah, it's because it's, to me, emotional intelligence is something that it has got to be worked on in conjunction with working on your culture, because you can't just try to, bolster the 6 key components, or if you're doing flourishing, there are 8 components or whatever. You can't just bolster those without a level of increased emotional intelligence and psychological safety, because if psychological safety, especially at an organization, is low, the trust is always going to be low. And the culture is going to always be right on edge.
Yes. So this is something, if it really scratches somebody's itch when they hear it, they can reach out to us, and we'd love to find a way to get in there and help you have the honest conversations around it, because it can change. That's the hope, is that we know it can get better and it takes some work, and we'd like to walk alongside people.
And there were a lot of aha moments at our workshop. Absolutely. I mean, even I had it, and I saw you had it.
I had a little bit of a tear maybe coming out, but again, maybe, I thought, is now the time for it? Well, I don't know, but it just hit me so hard that just like we all have areas that we can grow, there was so much strengths represented around that table where people are good at that stuff. And that's something to always remember. Like, we can get down on ourselves and say, oh, it's not good to be on the other side of me today, But that's not always true. A lot of the time, especially when we're consciously working on these things, people do want to be around us. And we need to see that sometimes.
That's right.
All right. Well, good conversation. Thank you. Right. I look forward to see where this journey takes us.
That's right. It's going to take us, I don't know where.
Going to make us smarter. Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Irresistible Workplace Initiative podcast. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see you on the next one.